Hello, today we will be talking about The Body of Art by Shonda Davis. So, the overview that I'm going to be talking about is Giotto's Lamentation, Donatello's David, Peter Paul Rubens' Elevation of the Cross, Ruben van Rijn Anatomy Lesson of Dr. Tulip, David's Oath of the Horatii, Arado Manet's Olympia, Picasso Les Demissions d'Avant, and I'm going to be comparing two paintings from two different artists. The first painting will be Arado Manet's Olympia, and the second one will be Picasso Les Demissions d'Avant. So let's get right into it. So the first painting is Giotto's Lamentation, and this was created in 1305 by the artist Giotto. And so pretty much what is going on is Christ has been crucified and Christ has been taken off the cross. So as we can see right here, Mary, which is his mother, she's holding her child, holding Christ. As we can see, Mary raises one knee up to prop him, and so she bends forward to him. So she has one arm around him, and the other one is like on his chest. And so the look on her face is as if she's pretty much talking to Christ and saying, "Wake up, please wake up." And so the style of art is Baroque because of the face expressions on people's faces, as you can see, even the angels' faces. It shows an expression of emotion throughout this whole painting. And so, as we can see, lamentation means to laminate. So that means to grieve. And so all of these people here, they are grieving. Even the angels, their faces are very sad. Some are crying, some are not looking at them. This one right here, their head is, pulled down, and they're pulling their hair. And so pretty much Giotto does such a great job with making sure that the focus is on Christ and Mary. As we can see just right here, the angels are not all the way painted. And so pretty much he wanted people to really focus in on Christ and Mary and not get distracted by the surroundings. Even with the landscape, as we can see with the arrows, it goes straight down to Christ and Mary. And so Giotto wanted to make sure that we understood what was going on. And so it's very interesting how he does this painting, because as we can see, Mary is holding Christ, but it kind of relates to the traditional and biblical sense of what was going on back when Christ was born. Mary was holding and swallowing Christ, and then this just shows the relationship and how close they were from the beginning. She's holding him as if Christ is a child again, and so we can see here how Giotto made that connection from Christ being born, and how Mary's face and how she was connected to Christ from day one, and how she is sad about the only son that she has been crucified. So as we take a look at the painting, we can see that there are two figures that are, their back is towards us, the viewers, and their face is towards Christ. And so, like I said, Giotto does such a great job with making sure that we understood that everything in this painting, okay, connects back to Christ, and that the focus was Christ. So let's take a look over here. So this right here is Mary Magdalene. And so Giotto also does a great job with this, because as you can see, Mary Magdalene is holding Christ's feet. And so in the biblical tradition, in the Bible, Mary anoints Christ's feet. And so he puts that in this painting right here as Christ is being crucified. So let's take a look at the tree. Has no leaves on it. And so this is very interesting right here, because as we can see, Christ is dead, right? And so the tree has no leaves on it. So we can pretty much say that the tree this is during winter time and there's no leaves on the tree. And so he does a connection with the tree and with Christ. As we can see, look at the arrows pointing at the tree, and then that directs right to Christ. And so pretty much the leaves on the tree are dead, so the tree has nothing on it. And so this represents winter, and it also represents Christ because Christ is dead and the leaves on the tree are dead. And so Christ resurrects in springtime, right? He comes to life and is resurrected. And so with this tree, when springtime comes, the leaves will rise again and blossom because of springtime. So it's just very interesting how Giotto makes that connection between the tree and Christ. And so here we are just looking at all the faces and how they're so sad. And this lady over here, she has her hand to her face, and how people are mourning and people are sad over Christ's death. So let's go to the next painting. So this is a sculpture actually. So this is Donatello's David. And so this was created between 1430 and 1440. And so the artist's name is Donatello. And so here we have David, okay, standing here. And he's standing on Goliath's head. And so the style of this art is Renaissance. And because it's Renaissance, because it is horizontal, and David is reserved the whole entire time throughout this sculpture. He is not tense, he's relaxed, he's confident. And so this is the reason why this is a Renaissance style of art. And so let's go right into it. And so this sculpture was the first freestanding sculpture. Okay, and so Donatello wanted to express right here in this sculpture that this shows the respect and love for the body. As we can see, David is naked and only has a soft hat on and some boots. And so as we can see here, the story behind this sculpture is that David went to battle with Goliath, who was his enemy. And so with God's help, he was able to fight Goliath and win the victory and win the battle. And so as we can see here, David has Goliath's sword in one of his hands, and then he also has a rock in the other hand. And so this connects to the early Renaissance, and then also connects to the Florentine people. And so it connects because the Florentine people defeated their own enemy, who was the Duke of Milan. And so they defeated the Duke of Milan and won that victory. And so this sculpture in David represents a victory, and David is almost a symbol to the Florentine people in Florence, because they connect with David because David was able to fight off his enemy and win the battle. And so the Florentine people were able to fight their enemy as well, which was Duke of Milan. And so the Florentine connects with David in such a great way, as they look at him to represent liberty to them, and pretty much represents courage and victory and confidence. As we can see, David is very confident. He is relaxed, and he is just, you can see that this was a big battle for him, and that he conquered such a mission. And so as we can see here, David, how Donatello sculptured David, he is bronze, and he's also hollow, with a little bit of tin giving him strength. And so we can see David's soft muscles, and his pack right here. And so this sculpture definitely, gives the Florentine people hope and gives them a sense of a victory every time they see this sculpture. So let's go to the next one. So the next one is a painting. And so this was created in the 1600s. And the painting is Peter Paul Rubens' Elevation of the Cross. And so the artist was Peter Paul Rubens. And so as we can see here, Christ is on a cross being lifted up into the sky. So they are crucifying cross in this painting. And as we can see, these men are, they are ready to crucify cross. And so the style of this is Baroque, because we can see the massiveness and all of this movement that is going on and how dramatic this painting is. As we can see, these men are strong. Look at their muscles. Look at their biceps. All of them they are lifting. As we can see, it looks like as if Christ is so heavy and strong. And so they need all these men to crucify and put him up. It's so funny how we can see a man up here. They were ready. And so Peter does a good job with this painting, because we can see that, as we can see here, Christ is looking up. And so it's like Christ is almost having a conversation with God, as if, God, they're crucifying me now. And so, he's just looking up to God. It looks like he's having a conversation to God. Having a conversation to God. And so Peter does a good job with the dynamic of the painting, and how Christ has muscles, and it's almost in a form of naturalism. I'm sorry, not naturalism, in a form of realism, of how real Christ looks and how real these men look as well. And so as we can see here, there's also a diagonal line. Right, let's look at that again. It's a diagonal line that is shown. And so this painting here can be shown in Rubens' painting, can be shown in Spain in a lot of churches and a lot of Catholic churches. And so this is very important to Catholic churches, because a lot of Catholic churches and European royal families bought this painting, and most of the time this painting was in churches, and more so in front of the altar. So this painting can be seen in the altar of churches, and shows the crescendo figures. And it also just shows the energy, like I said, the energy and the muscles in these men, and also in Christ. So let's go to the next one. So the next one is Rembrandt's Van Rijn Anatomy Lessons of Dr. Tulip. And so this was created in the 1700s, and the artist is Rembrandt's Van Rijn. And so this style of art is Baroque because of the naturalism of their faces and the realism and a moment in time. So this is a group portrait that Rembrandt did. And so these people are real. And so people who bought these paintings were middle class and upper class people. And so these paintings were in people's homes and people's living rooms and meeting rooms. And so as we can see, this is Dr. Tulip. And so right here, he is teaching a class to these students. And so these students are intrigued. Look at how this man here and how these men here are looking at the instrument and looking at the dead body and seeing, what ligament this is. And so we have a man here that is writing down notes, and It's very interesting. This man right here, it's almost as if someone opened the door, someone came in on their lesson, and he looked straight at the person that came in the door. And so we have a man right here that's looking at the teacher, and then it looks like here it's almost as if this man right here was looking at Rembrandt while he was doing this painting. And so the study of science and anatomy was very popular back in the 1700s. People paid for classes and lessons to learn about anatomy. And so to be a part of this portrait, you had to pay some amount of money to be a part of this portrait, or unless you just weren't in the portrait altogether. And so people paid more money to be up front and be a part of this portrait. And so it's very interesting here because Rembrandt does a great job with showing that this is what people wanted to learn and wanted to study back in the 1700s. People were so intrigued by anatomy and the human body and learning about science. It was such a big deal. And so Dr. Tulip is a famous doctor who did these classes and led these classes. So let's go to the next one. So this painting right here is David Oates of the Horatio. So this was created in 1781, and so the artist is Jacques Louis David. And so the style of this is neoclassicism and heroic. And so as we can see here, these men are so ready to go into battle. So let's go right into it. So Rome sent three brothers who are Horatio brothers to war with three other brothers who are Qurayshi. And so right here we have three brothers, right, who are giving an oath to their father. As we can see, the father has three swords and he's looking up in the sky and he is serious. And so these brothers are giving an oath to go to battle and pretty much making a promise to their father that they will win the battle. And so here we can see this is heroic because these men are strong. They are look at their bodies. They're so rigged, and their muscles are coming out. And so these men's faces are serious. They are ready to go to battle, and their father is ready to lead them into this battle. And so behind this man right here, we have three women and then two children. So we never really figured out who this woman is, but I personally believe that this is the father's wife. And so this is the three brothers' mother. And so she's looking down and pretty much covering the children, almost as if she doesn't want the children to know what's going on because they're going to war. And so pretty much what happens is whoever survives the battle wins the victory. And so these women are upset and sad because they don't know what the outcome is. And they know that someone is going to die. They don't know who. And so these two women here, as we can see, their eyes are closed. They're looking down. They're very limped. And so here we have two women. This woman right here, she is actually born a Horatio, but she is married to a Horatio. And then this woman right here is born a Horatio, but she must marry a Qurayshi. So this is very saddened for these women because their families are going to get torn because they're going to battle. These men are going to battle with each other. And so they're upset because someone's going to die and they don't know who. And so it's just very sad in time. And back then women didn't have a say. Women had to stand and obey their husbands wishes and commands. And so if their husband wanted to go to war, they had nothing. They didn't have a say. They had to face what was going on and realize that their husband might not come home, or their brother might not come home. And so, like I said, the women were very passive, um, and it was just such a sad time because they knew that someone was going to die. So let's go to the next one. So the next one is Eraros Manet's Olympia. And so this was created in 1863, and the artist is Eraro Manet. And so the style of this art is impressionism and realism. And so this is life form, because as we can see, this woman's face, she is no Venus, she is no goddess, she is a real woman. And so this painting was approved by the government of France. And so as we can see, this is a very interesting painting. So let's go right into it. So this woman is a high class prostitute. And so as we can see here, her servant is showing her flowers or giving her flowers. And so these flowers were given to her from a customer of hers. And so here we can see that her client was very pleased and very happy with her service that he had received from her. And so here we have Olympia. Her face is very serious. It's almost as if she's seducing the viewer or the person that's looking with her eyes and her body posture and how she is sitting up. Her legs are crossed. And it's very interesting how Eraro does a great job with showing that she's a high class prostitute because she's naked, but she's also, as you can see, the arrow is pointed to her body because her legs are closed. She's not showing her private part. She has these fancy slippers on, either that's like a fancy robe or an expensive sheet that she has here. She has all white, clean, crisp sheets on her bed. And so we can see here that she is very high class, even with this jewelry that she has. It's like a gold jewelry. So she is very contemporary, and this painting shows just a very sexual interest. It's like she wants you to come in and open the door and see her laying there and get aroused by her just being there. And so here we can see that it's almost like she's waiting for her next client, and it's like as if the client is going to open the door and she's just sitting there waiting for him. We can see that she is ready to please, and she's willing to aim to please and make sure that she gets some more flowers for her a great service. So let's go to the next one. So the next one is Picasso Les Demissions d'Avon. So this was created in 1907 by the artist Picasso. And so Les Demissions d'Avon is this means young ladies of Avon. And so this refers to a street in Barcelona. And so this street was associated with prostitution. And so here Picasso shows 5 women that are pretty much ready to go. Pretty much we can see that these are prostitutes. They're all naked. They have no clothes on, and everything is out in the open. There's nothing private about what is going on here. And so the style of art is Cubism and Renaissance. And so it's Cubism because we can see all these shapes that he has here. It's almost like it's a three-dimensional form. And so also it's Renaissance because people can argue that this is horizontal. And so here we have 2 women here that have African masks. And so Picasso does a great job with connecting this because France had colonial possessions in Africa. And so he makes a connection with those two women. And then also right here, this woman's face is a archaic figure. So this was back in ancient Spain. Excuse me. And so here we have these women who are willing to please these women. Oh, sorry, women willing to please these men at any cost. These women are fully nude, and so we can see here that Picasso wanted to show that these women were taking a chance on their life and pretty much giving away their bodies. And this was their career. And so Picasso does a great job with all this color that's going on. And so for me, color represents that there was a lot going on. There was a lot of sexual activities that was going on. And so we can see that these women were on these streets of Barcelona, on the street on Barcelona, giving themselves to these men. And so it's very interesting how Picasso paints this, because as we can see, it's almost as if these women are standing up or are looking towards us. But if we look at it another way, we can almost see as if like a horizontal way, as if like or even a three-dimensional form, as if these women are actually laying down. And so here Picasso wanted to show that these women pretty much were you know engaging in sexual activity within each other, or within each other and also a man as well. And so here we can see that this lady has all of her stuff, all of her private things out in the open. And so we can just see that these women were willing to just do whatever to make some money. And so Picasso also shows the danger in this painting as well, because it shows that there was a lot of sexually transmitted disease going on, because these men were coming out of the woodwork, and especially if they were doing their business out in the street, they didn't know who they were. And so these women and men were just giving each other sexually transmitted disease, and using pretty much a little to protect, either some protection or no protection at all. And so we can just see that Picasso wanted to show the danger of what was going on back then as well. So let's move on to the two paintings that I'm going to compare. So the two paintings that I'm going to compare is Erado's Manet's Olympia and Picasso Les Demis Divan. And so, excuse me. And so these two artists do a very good job with both of these paintings. So the similarities between these paintings is that these women over here and this woman over here, Olympia, are both prostitutes. And so we can see that both this woman over here and these women over here are fully naked and are waiting on their clients and waiting to please these men. And so how these two paintings relate to historical and cultural contents back then is that I believe that Manet and Picasso does a great job with pretty much explaining what was going on back in those times. And so right here, this painting was created in 1863. And so pretty much we can see Manet's wanted to show that women were out here prostituting, but as we can see, Olympia is a high-class prostitute, and so she is more private, more secretive. And so Erado wanted to show the privacy and how secretive it was back then, and how women that were prostitutes in the 1863 were more respected, because as we can see here, this woman has received flowers from her client, and then as we can see here, she is more private. Even though she's naked, we can see her hand. Look at the arrow. The hand is right on the private part. So she doesn't show anything. It's like she's mysterious and pretty much kind of wants her client to get intrigued and excited about the mystery of what her hand is covering. And even with her legs being crossed as well, you can see that she was more respected and didn't just have sex with anybody. Her clients were high-end clients, as we can see. Look at the way her background is. We can see that this woman looks like she was living in a penthouse, almost like she has very fresh, crisp pillows and sheets. Her background is more subtle, and so the difference would be that um, this painting is more subtle and it's more dull. The only color that is pretty much in this painting is Olympia and the flowers. And so Manet wanted to really focus on Olympia and show her beauty. And so for this painting right here, Picasso does a great job with showing what was going on during 1907. It's so interesting how between 1863 and 1907 things changed drastically. And so here, this shows that these women pretty much weren't as respected as Olympia was. They are fully naked. Everything is out in the open. They are not covering up anything or having a higher class clientele. These women pretty much are having intercourse with men that pretty much probably are drunks, or men that work in labor conditions, or are working overseas and need a quick fix. And so this just shows what was going on. And so here, this is more colorful. There's more shapes, and the women are more receiving and more willing, and more willing to just receive any type of clientele. It's almost as if they're ready. And so it's very interesting, because even though these two are different, their face expressions show how ready they are, and how they are willing to please the man, and really aim to do that. And so it just shows how available these women were to these men, and almost like this was normal. This was the way of life, to get a prostitute and pay her for her services. And so this was a career for these women. This is how they lived. This is how they survived. And so I think Arado and Picasso does such a great job with portraying that these women were this was their lifestyle. This is how they survived. This is how they made money. And so it just shows the standard level of how Olympia's standards were very high. We can see she is like she's in an echelon, and very classy, and very respected. And these women were not as respected, and not high class prostitutes. And so, like I said, these artists do a great job with showing the difference of what was going on, and showing the similarities of what was going on as well with these with these paintings. And so they just wanted to show that back then in 1863 that women were more respected, and then Picasso wanted to show that these women weren't as respected and had more danger to sexually transmitted diseases. So those two were the paintings that I wanted to compare. And so I wanted to thank you so much for listening. And I hope that you learned something. I hope you were inspired to go paint and be an artist. And so before we leave, I just want to show you, these are my references for my bullet points of my information. And then the next slide is my references for my images as well. So this one is for my images, and this one is for my bullet points. So I just want to thank you for listening. And like I said, I hope you learned something. I hope you are able to paint your little hearts out. So thank you and have a wonderful day.